I was watching the news because I wanted to be informed of what was happening in the world because news matters. But what you just said there is really important. It's not actionable news. What is happening right now in Afghanistan, which is awful and horrible. What is happening in Africa right now, awful. I mean, what's happening in China is, there's so many places around the world. There's awful and terrible things that are happening. But those things I can't do much more about. I mean, I wrote some checks to the Red Cross and Doctors Without Borders. I wrote some checks and did those kinds of things, made some donations. But those don't really affect me. So what do I really need to know each day? Maybe the weather. Maybe traffic, but I got apps for that. If there was an invading force off the coast of California, I would need to know that. I might need some updates on the pandemic, and the changing conditions of that. I might need to know a little bit about the drought here in California. Those are things I could actually make decisions on. Those are really the areas of my influence. And the other stuff outside of that, I can't do anything about. So there's a cognitive bias, which is really an error in thinking, that we think that when we are informed, when we know what's going on in the world, that we are doing something. We are not. So because you know what's going on in the state of Texas when you live in California, you know what Governor Cuomo did in New York, and you know all the ins of that, you think you are doing something. You are not doing anything. You are maybe better informed, but there's lots of research out there to say the more news you watch, the more misinformed you are. And so the actionable information you can really make decisions on, you can get off of apps. And then secondly, you're absolutely right. I find that people tell me, did you hear about Afghanistan? No, what's going on? The exit is an absolute tragedy. Okay, great. A year from now, I'm going to read a book about it and get the inside detail that hasn't been morally divided for me. I just want to know the facts.
I mean, I think people watch the news for purposes of knowing, so they can have conversations. It's a way of being social, being in the know and in the in crowd, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, if that's important to you and that's what you value, I particularly just don't value being in the in crowd relative to that type of information, because it's not serving, it's not productive, it's not constructive.
It's not.
It's just.
So when I was watching the news, 20 or 30% of my brain space, 20% of my time was going to focus on this information that was not moving my life forward. Mm-hmm. I wasn't present for relationships. I wasn't being creative in problem solving. I wasn't exercising and making myself better. I was just kind of fogging my mind with all this just static. You're absolutely right. If you are more committed to national unity than partisanship, please check out my book, The Second Civil War, A Citizen's Guide to Healing Our Fractured Nation. My book will challenge you to improve your relationships with friends and family. Click the link in the description below.